Another choke slam.
I got him!
Onto the barbed wire.
Kongo Kong, where the hell's he going now?
Abyss is stuck. Is he going to be able to get out in time? No.
Kongo Kong off the top rope, into Abyss, into the barbed wire, and we have a new monster.
The winner of the match, Kongo Kong.
The baptism of the new monster of Impact Wrestling is complete. Kongo Kong defeats Abyss in Monsters Balls.
Hello and welcome to the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast. I'm your host, Lewis Carlin, and we're part of the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network, and this is the Impact Wrestling edition of the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast. Good to be back this week. We're going to be talking, of course, about Impact Wrestling. A number of things to go over. A few more matches have been announced for the Lucha Underground Impact versus Impact Wrestling show, April 6th at WrestleCon. Very exciting show. I can't wait for that. It's right around the corner. It's already late March. It's right around the corner, April 6th. And it's going to be live on Twitch, so you can't beat that. You're going to have the stars of Lucha Underground and the stars of Impact Wrestling going head-to-head for free on Twitch TV. So that's going to be terrific. That's going to be great. One thing I noticed, though, about Lucha Underground versus Impact is Impact seems to be doing all the advertising. I don't know. I went on the Lucha Underground website and I went to their Twitter page and the Facebook page. Unless I'm completely missing it, it doesn't look like they're advertising it at all. It doesn't look like they're advertising that show at all. And Impact Wrestling is really the only one that's doing the advertising for that. But we're gonna talk about those matches soon anyway. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Also, I'm gonna talk about. Actually, I started watching Xplosion. I started watching Xplosion this week. Global Wrestling Network was March 17th episode. I only really watched the match. I only like to watch it for the first run match that they show, because the rest of it's really filler, and I'm going to talk about Xplosion as well. I really think they have another hour of programming, and I think they could do a better job. And I'm going to talk about Xplosion as well, and I'm also going to talk about the Twitter haters, the Impact Wrestling haters are on Twitter, social media, I should say. Facebook, Instagram, Impact Wrestling, they're posting stuff about EC3 this week because we had the big Feast or Fired match, and they were saying they had a post at what cases EC3 have, and everybody just going EC3's in NXT and blah 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 and saying such stupid things, and there were some really ridiculous posts by people, and I have 3 of them, and I'm going to read them off because they're really ridiculous, and I don't see what the big deal is really. And I went on a rant last week. I still don't see what the big deal. People still getting nuts over it. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. But I'm not going to go into a rant. This week. And of course, we're going to talk about the regular Impact Wrestling show, the flagship show, which took place. It was the Feast of Fired edition. They were going to open up their cases. We had Moose, Petey Williams, Eli Drake, and EC3 opening their cases this week, and the big reveal, find out what each of them has gotten. And of course, we had the big Monsters Ball match between Abyss and Kongo Kong to determine who the real giant is of Impact Wrestling, or the real monster of Impact Wrestling. So let's start off reading those quotes, those social media posts that I think are absolutely really ridiculous. Let's start it off with a good laugh. So, and I'm not going to read any names because, like I said, it's not my style. I know there's other, Impact Wrestling lovers out there, fans that have podcasts and they have their Twitter pages, and they really backing Impact Wrestling. They love Impact Wrestling like I do. I love Impact Wrestling, but some of them get a little nasty. I try not to get nasty. I'll respond to some of these stupid comments, but I do it. I don't. I try not to insult anybody or insult anybody's mother. And I've seen that. I've seen that a few times. It's just voice your opinion. You don't need to insult anybody. So I'm not going to read any names here. I'm not reading any names. And I'm just going to read the posts. So here's the first one. First one, again, I'm not reading any names. This one was on Facebook. I guess it was, this was posted, there was an EC3 post by Impact Wrestling asking what case does EC3 has, or something of that nature, something close to that. Again, word for word, I don't remember, but it was an EC3 post for Feast or Fired. So this guy writes, okay, so I said guy, but I'm not going to say anything. This guy writes, but talent is leaving still for late unreceived checks. 2 of them make the 2 hours worth watching, but oh, no management says you're good. You can't even sign any good people because Brian Cage, Impact, I guess Johnny Impact, Taya Valkyrie, who he spelled it Tya Valerie, are all on exchange. Must I keep going? Sell back to Dixie and Jeff, or to AAA in Mexico. Maybe then Impact might have a chance to survive. That has got to be the absolutely most ridiculous post I've read all year. Absolutely so stupid. First of all, this guy still thinks talent's not getting paid, which is completely ludicrous because everybody's getting paid right now. EC3 left on good terms. He mentioned that it had nothing to do with not receiving any pay. He said he's getting paid. Ed Nordholm, he was interviewed. Impact wrestlers are getting paid. They're getting paid, okay? So that's old news. That's not happening anymore. And only 2 wrestlers make Impact Wrestling worth watching. I wonder which 2 he's referring to, because he says only 2 of them make the 2 hours worth watching. Again, he's really not even watching the show, because if he's watching and there's only 2 that pique his interest, then there's something wrong with this character. So he's really not watching. And he says he can't even sign any good people because Brian Cage, Johnny Impact, and Taya Valkyrie are all on exchange. They're not all on exchange. They sign contracts with Impact Wrestling. Yes, they still wrestle for Lucha Underground and other promotions, but they've signed contracts. They're not on exchange. They're not on an excursion or anything like that. They've signed contracts and they're part of Impact Wrestling. So Brian Cage, Johnny Impact, and Taya Valkyrie are all signed with Impact Wrestling. And then he says, sell back to Dixie and Jeff. Maybe then Impact might have a chance to survive. Is this guy smoking something? I mean, again, I can say what I want because I'm not saying any names. I'm not really. Nobody knows who's being insulted here, but this guy, it's the most ridiculous thing I've read. I mean, sell back to Dixie and Jeff, and maybe Impact might have a chance to survive. I'm sorry, but the Dixie Carter era was not the greatest era. I mean, they had some good talent there, but it wasn't the best era to be in. So no, I completely disagree with that. And again, this is the most ridiculous social media post that I think I've read all year. And the second one, and I don't know why people are still saying this, is like end the award for a tanking company. First of all, Impact is a thriving company, not a tanking company, that isn't paying its employees on time again. These people are so stupid. Maybe they read some fake news, and they run with it. It's just so stupid. And the award for a tanking company that isn't paying employees on time again. Impact Wrestling. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. Like I said, they're not a tanking company. They're a thriving company. So again, this is really a ridiculous post. And here's another one, third one, and then I'll stop. Some person says, just call it TNA again. I think the Impact name has more of a stench to it than TNA did. And it almost went under when it was named Impact. What the F is this guy talking about? He's saying Impact Wrestling is going under because of the name Impact Wrestling. He said he's suggesting that Impact Wrestling almost went under because of the name change. He's this again. People are not really doing research. They're probably reading other social media posts and they're just going off that. It's stupid. It's ludicrous. It's ridiculous. And hey, I'm gonna keep reading these because they make me laugh. I find them humorous. I find them humorous that they're still out there. And that people still think that still running with the Impact Wrestling is not paying their talent again. So that's I'm gonna keep reading them. It's ridiculous. It's dumb, and just want to point those three out. Let's move on. Yeah. The Taya Valkyrie, Johnny Impact, and Brian Cage are all on exchange. They've gone on excursion and they're in Impact Wrestling. They're not signed to contracts. And this guy says, "Must I keep going?" I should have responded. I said, "Yeah, keep going. Let's see what." And who are the two? Who are the two that he was referring to that are worth watching in Impact Wrestling? There's a lot more than two. They have tremendous talent in Impact Wrestling. But anyway, that's enough of that. Not sure if that little segment went over as well as I expected, but I don't know. I don't know how people feel about me reading these tweets. I'm going to keep reading them. I enjoy it. They make me laugh. So I think it's going to be, maybe it'll become a weekly thing. We'll see. If you're listening, give me some feedback. If you want to hear more of the most ridiculous social media posts that I've read, just let me know and I'll keep going. But I like to read them. They make me laugh and I find it funny. And Impact Wrestling is thriving, not tanking. Okay, there you go. Okay, so let's move on. Lucha Underground versus Impact Wrestling. Two more matches were announced this week. The main event is going to be, of course, the Impact Wrestling World Champion Austin Aries teaming with Phoenix as they take on Alberto El Patron and Pentagon Jr. That should be a absolutely terrific match. The only thing is, this is really supposed to be a Lucha Underground versus Impact card. So that's what it's called. Lucha Underground versus Impact. But here you have an Impact wrestler teaming with a Lucha Underground wrestler, and you have two Impact wrestlers teaming with two Lucha Underground wrestlers. So I don't know if that really makes much sense. Maybe we could have had like Austin Aries defending against Phoenix, and then maybe Alberto El Patron, or maybe Austin Aries defending against Pentagon Jr., and then Alberto El Patron versus Rey Fenix. Maybe that would have made a little more sense. Basically, because it's Lucha Underground versus Impact Wrestling. So that's just my thought on that match. But nonetheless, I'm sure it should be a tremendous match. And also, we're going to have ladies match. Allie will be defending her women's, it says women's title, but she's the Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion. She'll be defending against Taya Valkyrie. And Taya Valkyrie, of course, in Impact Wrestling now, signed with Impact Wrestling. She's not on exchange. She's signed with Impact Wrestling, and she's also, of course, with Lucha Underground, and she's gonna get a shot at Allie's knockout title. So that should be a good one as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if Taya Valkyrie comes away as the Impact the Knockouts champion here. So, two good matches announced for Lucha Underground versus Impact Wrestling. Now, on to another show, two more shows actually, for Impact Wrestling. That's coming up actually this weekend. It's going to be out in California. I'm from Queens, out in California. So it's going to be Impact Wrestling and one of their partners, Big Time Wrestling, March 23rd, which is today. I'm recording on March 23rd. So tonight is a big show in Newark, California, Impact Wrestling and Big Time Wrestling. Actually, two matches have been announced for that. LAX will be defending the Impact Tag Team titles against Reno Scum, and a guy I never heard of before. He's the Big Time Wrestling Heavyweight Champion Chemo in a non-title match taking on Trevor Lee. And also Austin Aries will be making appearances for both shows. And I believe El Patron, Moose, Eli Drake, and I believe they're all going to be there. Eddie Edwards. they're all going to be on these shows as well. And there's 2 shows, actually. March 23rd in Newark, California, and then March 24th in Salinas, California. And that's going to be taped for a one night only. It's going to be one night only Cali Combat taping in Salinas, California on March 24th, which is, I'm recording on the 23rd, so it'll be tomorrow. And it's going to be one night only taping, which is going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of talent that I've never seen before. Love seeing that. That's why I love these partnerships that Impact Wrestling has. They're going out to other promotions and putting on live shows, and they're putting the spotlight on up and coming wrestlers. So I love what they're doing here. And somebody actually indicated that Impact Wrestling is hijacking these shows, and I think that's look ridiculous as well, because Impact Wrestling is not hijacking these independent shows. They're not just showing up and taking over. These are partnerships that they formed, and they're going out there again for one night only. And like Chemo is the big time wrestling heavyweight champion. I'm sure he'll be on the one night only card, as will other big time wrestling talent. And when do they have a shot at the national spotlight? You can't really answer that, but they will on March 24th, as Impact is taping a one night only special. Assuming it's for the Global Wrestling Network. So they're not hijacking anything. They're partnering with independent promotions, and they're putting on shows. It's a great move. Love what they're doing. They're going in the right direction. They're not tanking. They're thriving. And I love it. I can't wait. I can't wait to see this one night only taping. And I do hope it is on the Global Wrestling Network. The last few have debuted on the Global Wrestling Network. So again, I'm assuming it's going to be on the Global Wrestling Network. It's called Cali Combat. Looking forward to it. None of the matches have really been announced yet. I'm on the Impact Wrestling page right now, looking for some matches, but I don't see any. So we'll have to wait until this special comes out, and I hope it comes out soon, because it should be a good show. It should be a good show. And another, actually, we're going back. I work for Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling is headed back to the UK for a live show, September 9th at the Bowlers Exhibition Center in Manchester. They're going to be at MediaCon. So it's going to be a full weekend of live wrestling shows, MediaCon, and one of the shows will be Impact Wrestling. So back in the UK for a live show. I know last time they were in the UK, or whenever they go to the UK, it's always a good crowd out there. So it should be a good show, and hopefully this will be on Twitch as well. I don't see any announcements or anything, but I know the WrestleCon show, Lucha Underground versus Impact, will be on Twitch. So I'm kind of hoping that this one will be on Twitch as well. So September 9th. Impact Wrestling, the first live event in the UK in more than 2 years. So that's something for all the UK fans to look forward to. September 9th. I'm on the page right now, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., of course, UK time, or whatever you call it out there. But should be exciting. They're all over the place. They're in California. They're going out to the UK. They're at WrestleCon, taking on Lucha Underground stars. They're coming back up to Windsor, Ontario for 2 days for taping. So Impact Wrestling is thriving, not tanking. And you might hear me say that a lot on this show. They're thriving, not tanking. So I'm looking forward to it. They're sky's the limit right now for Impact Wrestling. They're doing the right thing. They're making all the right moves, and if you're an Impact Wrestling fan, now is a great time. Something you really could get excited right now, because a lot of good things are about to happen. And if you're not an Impact Wrestling fan, start watching it, and trust me, you'll convert to an Impact Wrestling fan. And lots of great things happening. It's an exciting time for Impact Wrestling. Alrighty, so that's the news. A few things I wanted to go over. The news I wanted to go over this week anyway. So I like I said, I have the Global Wrestling Network, and they show Xplosion, Impact Wrestling Xplosion, and they had the March 17th episode was up, so I did watch it. I watched the match. I know I used to watch Xplosion in the past, but I kind of tapered off a bit, but I want to get back into Xplosion because I know they have first run matches, and they're usually decent matches, but the rest of it is filler. And the match this week was actually a Stone Rockwell adventure against the Desi Hit Squad's Rohit Raju. It's the first time seeing Stone Rockwell in the Impact Wrestling ring. Yes, he was part of the one night only tapings that was March Breakdown tag team with Sheldon Jean against the Desi Hit Squad. But he was actually in Orlando, actually in the Impact Wrestling Zone, and took on Rohit Raju, aka or FKA Hakeem Zayn. And, I got to be honest, Stone Rockwell is this Indiana Jones character, and it says the word adventure a lot, and, I'm not the biggest Stone Rockwell fan. I'm sorry. You want to like him. He's got this nice grin. He's playing the Indiana Jones character, and Lord knows I love Indiana Jones. But I don't know, this character is just, Stone Rockwell is just not registering with me. Just not a Stone Rockwell fan. But I am a Rohit Raju fan. And this was a decent match. Raju is really good. It's a really nice offense. Rockwell tried to incorporate some comedy towards the end. Again, not the biggest Rockwell fan. If they were going to bring somebody down for this match, they should have brought down like Sheldon Jean or Jake something instead. I know when Raju was Hakeem Zayn, him and Jake something, they had a great series of matches. Actually, Jake something is Hakeem Zayn's favorite opponent, and it's what he said on I interviewed Hakeem Zayn a few months ago, and he told me his favorite opponent was Jake something. So maybe they should have brought Jake something down instead, or like I said, Sheldon Jean. We could have had a better match. But it was a decent match nonetheless, as I said. And Rohit Raju, of course, wins the match, as expected. I wasn't expecting him to lose. The Desi Hit Squad is... they need to be pushed. We already saw Gursinger Singh and Raju make their debuts at the Twitch special, which was on 2 weeks ago, and March Breakdown, which is on Global Wrestling Network now. So we saw them make their debuts, and they were less than spectacular debuts, to be honest. And I know these guys are trying to push these guys. And Raju, like I said, won as I expected him to win. But I wanted that little thing about the Desi Hit Squad just now, because Josh Matthews says after Raju wins, Josh Matthews says, he calls it a huge upset. He calls the win by Rohit Raju over Stone Rockwell a huge upset. Like, I don't know where he's coming from on that. Like, why does he think Raju's win over Stone Rockwell is a huge upset? I don't get it. Raju was in the Impact Zone, and we've only seen him one other time, and that was on March Breakdown. Yet Raju's win over Stone Rockwell here was a huge upset. So I mean, you're supposed to be pushing the Desi Hit Squad, making them look good, and by saying that Rohit Raju's win over Stone Rockwell was a huge upset, that's not doing the Desi Hit Squad any justice. I'm sorry. So I think that was a huge mistake on the part of Josh Matthews. But like I said, Raju did win. He won with the crucifix pin, and I don't think it was a huge upset. I think it was an expected win. I'm surprised, Rockwell got in some offense. It should have been more of a one-sided Raju match. They got to push the Desi Hit Squad. Desi Hit Squad, we've seen 2 members so far, and I know there's 4 members, and plus Gama Singh, the manager. But Rohit Raju and Gursinger Singh, formerly known as Tony Cage, 2 very, very talented wrestlers. And they make a great tag tag team. A terrific tag team, but they need to be pushed. They need to be pushed, and they need to be made to look unbeatable. I'm sorry, I'm a fan. We need more tag teams, and the Desi Hit Squad right now are a tag team, and they could be a very good one in Impact Wrestling. So again, Josh Matthews dropped the ball there. He should not have called it a huge upset, but nonetheless. He did call it that, and Raju gets the victory over Stone Rockwell on the Xplosion match from March 17th. And then the rest of the show is just basically filler. Josh Matthews interviewing wrestlers. I'm not sure who he interviewed on the show. Then we saw a classic match, and then they show highlights from the flagship show, the Thursday night show. So here's the deal. Here's my thoughts on Xplosion. We got an hour. Again, I'm saying we. I guess I feel like I'm part of the Impact Wrestling roster. Give me a sec. Impact Wrestling has another hour of programming that they have now on the Global Wrestling Network. They show on the Fight Network, and they show out in the UK. As we know, it's called Xplosion. So another hour of programming. This 1 hour programming should be dedicated to first run matches only. That's my opinion. I've been saying this for a while. Showing Stone Rockwell and Rohit Raju. Again, I'm not the biggest Rockwell fan, but two newer guys they're showing, which is great. And this Xplosion could be like a breeding ground for Impact Wrestling, kind of like say like NXT is for WWE, for Raw and SmackDown. You're in NXT, but eventually you're going to move up to the main roster. Xplosion could be that NXT show for Impact Wrestling. Sheldon Jean, Jake something. Let's get some young up-and-coming stars on Xplosion. 2 or 3 matches, new matches a week, and they work their way up, trying to get up to the main Impact Wrestling roster. Sure, yes, you might be stealing a little concept there from the WWE, but who cares, right? Who cares? That's my suggestion for Xplosion. It should be a show just for new talent. Again, like Sheldon Jean, Gursinger Singh, Jake something, Cody Deaner, although Cody Deaner is like in his 30s, but talent we haven't seen before. And there were plenty of other, like Brent Banks, Sebastian Suave, bring these guys in. Xplosion could be could be their NXT, could be their minor leagues. I didn't want to say minor leagues because it's professional wrestling, but it could be their show. Like I said, new talent trying to work their way up to the main Impact Wrestling roster. That would make it an interesting show. Because Xplosion, we don't need to see highlights from the Thursday night show because we're watching the Thursday night show. Don't really need to see highlights from that. And they show classic matches. Fine, save the classic matches for the Global Wrestling Network. Xplosion should be 3 or 4 new matches with young up-and-coming talents. The Von Erich sons, the Von Erich boys, bring them on. You have a lot of opportunity there. It's an extra hour of programming a week, and they should make the most of it. And right now, I don't feel they are. And they should be. So that's my suggestion for Xplosion. Whether you agree with me or not, I don't know. I would think that my idea is a good idea, and I know when Jeff Jarrett came back, Xplosion, we started seeing 2 new matches on there, and then we had some filler. But then they went back to the 1 new match. 3 or 4 new matches. Bring in some talent. Like you got Kevin Blackwood. J.P. Sims. Go to the Maritimes. Bring in Kobe Christ, Marcus Burke, Chip Chambers. Bring those guys in. Titus. Then we can have them on Xplosion, and as they try to work their way up. And I know I said it a number of times, but I'll say it again. As they try to work their way up to the main Impact Wrestling roster, that will make it exciting. And then you can even have like an Xplosion champion. So to speak, and then maybe have like a proving ground match. Bring a guy down from Impact Wrestling to take on an up and coming star, and I said proving ground match again. That's That's really from Ring of Honor, but you know what I mean. They don't have to call it Proving Ground match. They could prove yourself match, something like that. Well, you know what I'm talking about. They could have Top Star come down. Like in New Japan Pro Wrestling, they have Katsuya Kitamura. He goes through his 7-match trial, taking on veterans. He's a new wrestler, and he's taking on 7 veterans to see how far he's come. You can do something like that with Xplosion. The sky's the limit with this show. They got to make the most of it. And I think I just gave out some pretty damn good ideas. So I hope Don Callis and Scott D'Amore are listening, because those are pretty damn good ideas, I feel, for Xplosion. But anyway, that's my take on Xplosion. They have a good opportunity there, and they need to take advantage. And it would be good to see some fresh new talent on there week after week in and week out, because you can watch it and you're thinking, who's going to be on it this week? Are we going to see Jake something? Are we going to see Kobe Christ? And it gives these new guys an opportunity to show what they're made of on a more I don't want to say national. Well, yeah, because it's Global Wrestling Network. Anybody could get it. So on a more national scale. So that's those are my 8 cents for Impact Wrestling's Xplosion on how I feel they could fix it. But anyway, let's move on to the main show. Thursday nights, it was the Feast or Fire reveal, and opens the show. Jeremy Barash is on there. I guess they filmed the Feast or Fire reveal with Jeremy Barash. I guess they couldn't re-edit it and redo it, so they left Jeremy Barash in. Matthews and Sanjay Dutt really didn't mention Barash being in the ring. So Jeremy Barash is probably his last appearance for Impact Wrestling, as he's with the WWE now. How did we open this show? I got my notes backwards here. I'm sorry. Okay, so. We didn't actually. I'm sorry. My notes were a little backwards there. I think I might have said that we opened the show with Jeremy Barash, but we didn't open the show with Jeremy Barash. So I apologize for that. So I got my pages back in order, and I was thinking that doesn't sound right. And everyone's probably thinking they didn't start the show with Jeremy Barash, but no, they didn't. So I apologize. But we find out the show starts with EC3. We see EC3. He's wearing a Property of Impact Wrestling T-shirt, which I found humorous, because he's about to get fired, as we all know. He's with NXT now, but he's wearing a Property of Impact Wrestling T-shirt, so I found that a little funny. And then the show after that, we got a Feast of Fire recap, as the big reveal will be this week, as Petey Williams, Moose, Eli Drake and EC3 all have cases. Now, before they made the reveal, and I don't read spoilers, I thought it was, pretty obvious who had what case. Of course, EC3 had the fired case. And I said, well, Petey Williams is not going to get the world title shot case. Don't know if he's going to get the tag team title case, because he doesn't really have a partner, and I know he's talking about wanting a shot at the X Division title, so I predicted he was going to get the X Division case. Moose was going to get the world title case, and that would leave Eli Drake with the tag team title case. And let's jump to that. Let's jump to the reveal, which Jeremy Barash was involved in. And I was right. Eli Drake got the tag team title case, and he looked very disappointed. He said he doesn't have a partner anymore. Of course, because Chris Adonis is no longer with Impact Wrestling, because Eli Drake fired him last week. So he was disappointed, and he threw his case out of the ring. But I'm sure Eli Drake will find a partner. And I just want to say, I just got a text message, not a text, a Twitter message from Nick at Tap That Wrestling Podcast Network. Actually, Nick and Myron They host the Wrestling News Weekly for the Tap Out Wrestling Podcast Network. Great show. Highly recommend. Highly recommend it. Yeah, you're a wrestling fan. Again, highly recommended. Give it a listen. Nick and Myron, the Wrestling News Weekly on the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. And I'm reading this message he just sent me, and he says, Lewis. And Nick, I love Nick. He sounds excited here. He's like, Lewis, Impact viewership up again, 362,000. I love it. There we go. So it's not tanking, it's thriving. Impact Wrestling viewership is up again. 362,000 people tuned in. I think we were at 350 last week. So it's rising. It's rising and it's not tanking. It's thriving. So thanks, Nick. Thank you for that update during the recording of the podcast. I appreciate it. Okay. So as I was saying, Eli Drake got the tag team title shot. He looked disappointed. He doesn't have a partner, so he throws the case out of the ring and he leaves in disappointment. But I'm sure Eli Drake will find a partner. And P. Williams reveals his, and P.D. Williams reveals that he has the X Division title shot, which I predicted as well. And of course, Moose got the world title shot as I predicted, and as I predicted correctly, I was surprised. That EC3 was fired. There were obvious reveals. I'll be honest. There were obvious reveals. Was a little boring because it was pretty obvious who was getting what. But you got to think, and I know John Corrigan who was a guest co-host from the Wrestling Estate, he kind of pointed out that why would anybody want to participate in this match where they might get fired? And you also have to think, why would Impact Wrestling want to put one of their top stars in jeopardy of being fired? Where's the appeal? Where's the appeal Impact Wrestling to want to have one of their top stars fired? They're working on they're in the right direction, right? They're moving in the right direction. So why would they want to, put one of their top stars in jeopardy? So there's a flip side to that as well. Why would a wrestler want to participate in a match where they might get fired? And why would a company want to risk having one of their top stars being fired? So the whole concept, I guess, when you think about it, is kind of silly. It doesn't make sense. But, they had to write EC3 off somehow. I still think it would have been better to write him off by him challenging Austin Aries to a world title match and saying that if he can't beat Austin Aries, he will leave Impact Wrestling forever. And that way you could have put over Austin Aries. He would have successfully defended his title, and that would have been EC3's out. And I think it would have been a lot better than this Feast of Fired. I'm going to call it a fiasco. Feast or Fired fiasco. Yes, I know I defend Impact Wrestling's right to show this match. I know it was shown taped 3 months ago, and I'm defending their right to show an EC3 match that took place in the Impact Wrestling ring, and I will always defend that. But I just thought this was a bit of a fiasco. I'm sorry. I thought it was a bit of a fiasco. When you think about it, when you think about the logic behind it, I just doesn't really make sense. I mean, what if Moose got fired? You think about it, what if Moose got? I know he wasn't going to get fired, but what if Moose got fired? What if Brian Cage was involved and he got the fired case and he was fired? So the match is a bit of a fiasco. Okay, that's maybe one of the cases could be suspended for 60 days, so you're out for 60 days instead of being fired outright. But maybe it will make a little more sense. But anyway, that's my take. I think the match itself wasn't a fiasco. The match concept. Let me correct myself. The match concept is a little bit of a fiasco. There, so I've corrected myself. And Eli Drake winning the tag team titles shot was okay, but it would have been cool to see if like Rohit Raju get that case and he gets a tag team title shot, and him and Gursinger Singh go on and upset LAX for the Impact tag team titles. That would have been interesting. That would have been fun to watch. But it'd be interesting to see who Eli Drake gets as a tag team partner. And of course, after Moose reveals he's got the world title shot, EC3 won't open his case, and EC3 says that it's not his case. Says that there's not a man that can make him open his case. So Barash goes ahead. He goes ahead and opens the case, and we see the words "fired" or the word "fired," and which was expected. EC3 cuts a promo about being fired. He snaps, and then he attacks Jeremy Barash with the case. And here comes Brian Cage making the save. Hits the drill claw on EC3, and the torch is passed from EC3 to Brian Cage. Now the crowd was a little quiet. There's a lot of tapings that took place before this one, but I have to say they have to get out of the Impact Zone. They have to get out of Orlando. We'd love to see them do tapings regularly in Windsor, Ontario, in front of that crowd, the Border City crowd, Border City wrestling crowd. That's a good crowd. They need a lively crowd, and this crowd, which should have been popping for Brian Cage, was really quiet. But like I said, the drill claw was hit by Brian Cage on EC3, and the torch is officially passed from Brian Cage from EC3 to Brian Cage, as EC3 is now free to do as he wishes in NXT. So good luck, EC3. EC3's tenure here in Impact Wrestling has just been phenomenal. Really a special talent, EC3, and I'm gonna say he's gonna be missed. I'm gonna miss him in Impact Wrestling. I wish him nothing but good luck in NXT, but I'm gonna miss him here in Impact Wrestling. And never say never. He could be back. Hopefully everything will work out for him in the WWE. All right. Now that was the end of the show. Now the opening of the show, I was hoping for another match to start the show, but we didn't start with a match this week. I know the last few weeks we've been starting with matches, but the show opened with Alberto El Patron coming to the ring, cutting a promo on Austin Aries. Austin Aries coming out, cuts a promo on Alberto El Patron. They're trying to put over their match at Redemption. Patron says that he's ready to fight, despite the fact that he's wearing a suit, and that Aries is not the greatest man who ever lived, but he is the greatest man that ever lived. Austin Aries, at this point, Austin Aries comes to the ring, cuts that promo on Patron. Then he says Redemption is on, that Patron has his shot. So they go at it verbally for a bit. And Aries says that he will be champ after Redemption. And actually El Patron leaves the ring and says that play Aries music, but then Aries says no, let's play El Patron's music, because this will be the only time that you will leave the ring while I'm in the ring and hear your music, because meaning that he's going to win and we'll hear Austin Aries' music. So it was a good little exchange. This is going to be a good match at Redemption. This is going to be a good main event match, and I think they're really building it well. I mean, last week we had the vegan Austin Aries being tempted, taunted, I should say. Not tempted. Aries was not tempted by the steak, but he was being taunted by Alberto El Patron with steak, with meat. So I thought that was done really well, and this exchange here I thought was really well. And I'm really looking forward to this match, and we still got a few weeks left, so there's a lot of building to do. A month left, actually. There's a month left of building this match, and I'm already interested in seeing the match. And I didn't realize there was quite a size difference between Patron and Austin Aries. I know Patron is taller, but it was really made apparent this week. But it's going to be a great match. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the more matches being announced for Redemption. It's going to be a great pay-per-view. I'm good to see them back in the doing a pay-per-view. Would love to see it on the Global Wrestling Network, but I don't know if they're going to do that. And I said it's going to be a great pay-per-view. Sure, they haven't announced any of the matches, but with the talent that they have, I'm sure it's going to be a great pay-per-view. I'm looking forward to that for sure. But again, great exchange here between El Patron and Aries. They kind of work well together. They have good verbal exchanges, and they really. I'm interested. I'm really interested in this main event. I'm looking forward to it. At Redemption, April 22nd. The first match, then, I was happy. I was happy with this first match, even though it wasn't advertised at all. It was Trevor Lee with Caleb Conley taking on one of my new favorite wrestlers in Impact Wrestling, Fallah Bahh. And I'm speaking for John Corrigan as well, the Wrestling Estate, by saying Fallah Bahh is one of our favorite wrestlers now. And this was a solid, fun, entertaining match. Fallah Bahh is over. The crowd was quiet for much of the show, but with Fallah Bahh, they were chanting along with him with the ba 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 and the no no no. That's great stuff. Fallah Bahh is over, but Fallah Bahh lost again. That's the only thing that kind of sucks is Fallah Bahh. He keeps losing. He's over with the crowd. They have something special here, but he keeps losing. It's a great matchup. I think both guys are really talented, and Bah's getting more over each and every week. The crowd came alive for Fallah Bahh, and had some good back and forth action. Actually, Caleb Conley came in. I think Trevor Lee was trying to get out of the ring, and Caleb Conley was trying to pull him out, but Fallah Bahh pulled both Trevor Lee and Caleb Conley into the ring and steamrolled over both of them, which was a good spot, which was a really good spot. But Trevor Lee did win the match. As I said, Fallah Bahh lost. Trevor Lee won the match with the help of Conley. Bahh was on the second turnbuckle. He was about to do a splash, but he got back smacked by Caleb Conley, and then Trevor Lee kind of rolled him up for the victory. But it should have taken a lot more. It should have taken a lot more to beat Fallah Bahh. It was a good match, but it seemed like Fallah Bahh was beaten with kind of a weak move there. But please, guys, you gotta Fallah Bahh is. I'm trying to think of a word here, man, because that I haven't said, but he's a terrific talent. He's over with the crowd. You have something so special here. Let's do it right, Scott D'Amore and Don Callis. Let's treat Fallah Bahh correctly. I would be all for keeping him off TV for 2-3 weeks and then have him coming back, not repackaged. Keep him Fallah Bahh, but have him come back and then go on a winning streak. Start winning. Fallah Bahh, he could be the monster. I'd love to see him against Kongo Kong. But you got to do something good with Fallah Bahh. He's got to start winning matches. He's been with Impact Wrestling for almost a year now, if not a year, and he's won 2 matches, and both against KM, which I'm very happy about. That Fallah Bahh beat KM on both occasions, but because I really like Fallah Bahh and beating KM on both occasions. But you got to do something with Fallah Bahh. I keep tweeting stuff, and Fallah Bahh likes my tweets. He won't retweet for some reason. He's not a retweeter, but he likes my tweets. But you got to do something with Fallah Bahh. Sorry, let's get something going. Get him on a winning streak. Let's. Do something with Fallah Bahh. Do something positive with Fallah Bahh. He's not enhancement talent anymore. He's over with the crowd. He could be money. So gotta do something. Do something positive with Fallah Bahh, please. That's my plea of the week for Scott D'Amore and Don Callis. And then we see OVE. Sami Callihan is stalking Eddie Edwards' wife, Alisha. Sami Callihan has a camera, and he's watching her walk. His wife, Eddie Edwards' wife, Alisha, walk through a hotel room, and he's filming it. And it was a little creepy, actually. And then he goes up to a housekeeper, and he says, "I've been locked out of 317. Can you let me in?" And she's like, "Oh, sure." First of all, that wouldn't happen in a real hotel. Well, it might happen, but a housekeeper is supposed to say you need to go to the front desk. And the second thing here that I want to point out is I really hope, really kind of hope that Sami Callihan has a hidden camera, because it would be really awkward if he walked up to the housekeeper with a camera, holding a camera, saying and filming and saying that I've been locked out of 317, can you let me in? And she didn't see anything wrong with Sami Callihan holding a camera and just says, sure, I'll let you in 317, no problem. So hopefully it was a hidden camera somewhere and not a camera that he was holding, not a handheld, because that would have been a little strange if it was a handheld and she did let him into the room. So I just wanted to point that out. I wanted to point that out as well. Handheld camera will be a little suspicious, but apparently if it was a handheld camera, that wasn't suspicious to the housekeeper. So it's funny how somehow, and I see these little things like somehow. Eddie Edwards' wife being stalked by Sami Callihan is being broadcast live on the backstage screens at Impact Wrestling in the Impact Zone. So I thought that was a little weird. Like, how did Sami Callihan rig that? That he's going to be filming his wife, but somehow it's going to be broadcast live on the Impact Wrestling screens, the backstage Impact Wrestling screen. So he's really hands-on there. I gotta tell you that. So Eddie Edwards, Mackenzie Mitchell's like in horror. She's, Eddie, look! And he's like, oh my God! And he takes off and starts running out of the hotel, running towards the hotel to get back to his wife. So I thought that was a little odd that it was shown live on the backstage screens in the Impact Zone in Orlando. But anyway, so after that we got P.D. Williams' backstage interview. And then after that we had our second match of the evening. And the second match of the evening, as I said, we got the second match after the P.D. Williams interview. Matt Sydal defending the X Division title against Desi Hit Squad's Rohit Raju. Of course, Josh Matthews, the grand champion, he was gifted that title last week by Sydal, and he came to ringside with Sydal. And Sydal is defending the X Division title against Rohit Raju. And I don't really... Raju, he beat Stone Rockwell on the Xplosion card, the Xplosion match that I saw. But I don't really remember him winning any significant matches that has earned him a shot at the X Division title. I mean, you have Desmond Xavier out there. You have Tashi Ishimori, who I don't believe has gotten his rematch. I'm thinking I don't believe he's gotten a rematch. Again, also, like I said, Desmond Xavier's out there. You have other wrestlers out there, I think, that are more deserving of a X Division title. Not to take away from Raju. Raju is a really good talent, but I mean, they just how are they working that? I mean, they're just handing out title shots to anybody who happens to be in the back. It's just you have good talent. You just got to make more sense, right? So it just didn't make sense that he was getting an X Division title shot when he really hasn't won any matches of significance. Basically, he's more of a... We've seen him in singles competition, but I think they're trying to push him as a tag team with Gursinger Singh, Desi Hit Squad. So I don't know. It just really didn't make sense why he... is getting an X Division title shot, and Sydal and Matthews. I was excited to see them this week, but it was okay. It was nothing special about their appearance this week. They didn't really do anything special. Like last week, I thought it was really cool. Josh Matthews in the ring with Sydal. Sydal gives him the title, and and Matthews gives him the spirit animal mask. I thought that was a good segment. But this week, really didn't. The combination of Sydal and Matthews really didn't do much this week. But that said, this was a really good match. That said, this was a really good match. I tell you, Raju is really talented. Formerly known as Hakeem Zayn, now Rohit Raju in Desi Hit Squad. This was a really good match, and Raju is, like I said, really talented and fun and entertaining match. Good back and forth action. I like that Matthews didn't interfere in the match. I thought, here's Matthews, he's going to interfere, costing Raju the match. But he didn't interfere. Sydal wins clean. Of course, he hits the shooting star press as expected, and he wins. But it was a good match. Good back and forth action. But again, why Raju and not Ishimori or Xavier? It would have made more sense if it was Ishimori or Xavier getting a shot at the X Division title. But nonetheless, a really good match. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing more Desi Hit Squad in the weeks to come. And I really hope they get a bit of a push. I can see Raju and Singh as the tag team champions down the road. Lord knows Impact needs more tag teams, as I've been stressing on a number of occasions. And but the future is looking good in Impact Wrestling for the Desi Hit Squad. A couple of talented wrestlers there, so I'm looking forward to more of the Desi Hit Squad. And I know their debut matches were, like I said, less than spectacular, but let's give them a chance to shine. We'll give them a chance, and they'll shine like I know they can. Hey, like Hakeem Zayn says, my mother calls me son because I shine like one. I don't know if that's going to be his catchphrase now, but I thought I'd throw that one in there. So, but again, good match between Sydal and Raju. And then we had two backstage interviews. One really, really great one from Eli Drake, and one, plain one from Moose, but one really, really good one from Eli Drake, talking about Feast of Fire. Match 3, we had Sienna, Allie defending the Impact Knockouts Championship against Sienna, which was a good match. I would have liked to, if there was some promoting this match, instead of just, have them talk for a bit before the match, because Sienna was a killer, and Allie, she was the sweet, lovable Allie, while Sienna was the killer. So maybe have Allie talk about how maybe she's a little nervous for this match because she knows how badass Sienna is, and then have Sienna could talk about how Allie was, the sweet, lovable character, and she was the badass, and she would have no problem disposing of Allie in the past, and she expects to win the title in this match, and kind of something along those lines. And but they didn't. They just announced the match. They just had their in-ring introductions, and the match began. It was a good match. It was a good match. Good back and forth action. It's really good to see Sienna back in the ring. We haven't seen her in the ring for a while. She was out due to injury, but it's good to see her back in the ring. But again, good back and forth action. Allie is really, really good in the ring. Love Allie in the ring. She has a great skill set, and she won the match. She hit a super kick. It was a big win, huge victory for Allie, but they should have made it seem like a little more important than it was, because this was Allie beating Sienna, not Allie beating Kiera Hogan. It was Allie beating Sienna, and Sienna is one of the top stars, of course. She's the Kelly Klein, I guess you could say, of Impact Wrestling. And no, I won't say that. I apologize. She's the Sienna of Impact Wrestling. She's not the Kelly Klein of Impact. She's the Sienna of Impact Wrestling. So I take that back. That was wrong. I apologize. But she's top dog, the top female wrestler in Impact Wrestling, and Allie getting this victory over Sienna was huge, and they should have made it huge, a big deal, but they didn't make it into a big deal. And the big news here is Braxton Sutter comes out and talks to Allie. Accidentally calls her Laurel on one occasion, but he corrects it. And then he says he loves her, gets down on one knee. But then Su Yung comes out, makes her debut, and destroys Allie to the delight of Braxton Sutter. So Allie has a new challenger in Su Yung. Su Yung is this. I don't know, there was a movie out called The Bride or something. I can't remember, The Ring or something, but she's this bride character. She's wearing this makeup and she's got a bloody wedding dress or whatever she's wearing. She'd make a great opponent for Rosemary. She seems tailor-made for Rosemary, and I'm sure they'll meet eventually down the line. But Allie has a new challenger in Su Yung, so let's see how it goes. But Su Yung totally destroyed Allie. And looks like Su Yung and Braxton Sutter are now a thing. Braxton Sutter really enjoyed it, left the ring, and looks like they left together. And we'll see more of Braxton Sutter and Su Yung, I'm sure, down the road. Probably next week. I know Hanaya the Huntress was fired because she didn't want to job Su Yung. But no, we're going to see Su Yung. It should be interesting. Allie has a new challenger. The Knockouts division is really looking up. With the recent additions of Kiera Hogan and Su Yung. And plus, you got Taya Valkyrie, Rosemary, Sienna's back. Of course, there's Allie, of course. And it's really looking up for the Knockouts division. Lots of good talent there. So it's another thing that Impact Wrestling fans could get excited about is the women's division, the Knockouts division of Impact Wrestling. And after that, we got EC3 doing a backstage interview for Feast of Fire. And I thought this was got a little humorous because we had a number of wrestlers walking by saying that he hopes he gets fired. Even Bobby Lashley came out. Even Richard Justice came out and said he hopes he gets fired. Why do all these wrestlers hope that EC3 get fired? I guess they're just making light of the fact that they knew he was leaving to go to NXT and this was his last show, and I guess they were just making light of him, making light of the situation and just saying, I hope you get fired. I guess for leaving for NXT. So it was a good segment. It was a humorous segment. Richard Justice, do we need to see him anymore? Not really. Don't really need to see Richard Justice anymore, or Dick Justice, or whatever they call him. But he was in the segment. Imagine flying in Dick Justice just to do that one I hope you get fired segment, and then you could go back to wherever you were. But Bobby Lashley came out at the end and said, nope, he's fired, which was interesting because I know Bobby Lashley is no longer with Impact Wrestling either. So, but yeah, a lot of wrestlers. Johnny Impact came out and said, I hope you get fired. So a lot of wrestlers came out saying that even Moose came out and said, hoping that EC3 gets fired. So it was a comical moments on Impact Wrestling. And then we got the Global Wrestling app moment of the week, which was Mick Foley versus Abyss in Monsters Ball. Don't really want to go into it. They're wasting their time showing these long segments when we could have another first run match. And then Eddie Edwards gets to the hotel to save his wife from Sami Callihan. And it's funny how the cameraman, there's a camera set up. Eddie Edwards is supposed to be rushing back to the hotel to protect his wife from Sami Callihan, but there's a camera set up right in front of the hotel that films him. Films Eddie Edwards coming in. So why would there be like Eddie Edwards just rushed out of the Impact Zone because he saw on the live feed, somehow there was the live feed on the backstage screens that his wife was in danger. So he rushed out of the Impact Zone, got into his car and drove, and I guess he's like, let's before I drive up and attempt to save my wife. Why don't we get a camera crew out there so they could they could film me driving up to the hotel, and then I could rush out like I'm going to save my wife. So I'll wait. You let me know when the camera crew is ready. The camera crew setting up is more important than me getting to my wife. So again, a little unrealistic. I know it's a TV show, but try to be as realistic as you possibly can be. It's supposed to be a real life situation going on here, right? So anyway, but he gets out of the car, and there's a cameraman right behind him, chasing after him and bouncing up and down. Eddie Edwards, he gets up, he runs past the housekeeper who let Sami Callihan into room 317, and Edwards goes into 317, and he runs into, and it's dark, and he calls out for his wife, and he sees the bed, he pulls the covers, and his wife is sleeping. His wife is fine, and she's sleeping, and she's like, "What's going on? What's the matter?" And of course there's a camera crew set up in the bedroom, and he rushed to get to his wife, but I guess before I get in there, before I go into the room and pull the covers off to see that she's okay, let's set up the camera. Now, I'll just wait here. Let me know when the camera. Be quiet, because she might be sleeping. So again, it's film for TV, I know, but real life, realistic situation. Let's try to be as realistic as possible. My opinion. I'm sorry. But Eddie Edwards checks the room, and his wife's like, "What are you doing? What are you checking?" And he doesn't really explain the situation. There's no Sami Callihan in the room, so Eddie Edwards is convinced that his wife is safe. So he leaves the room, and Sami Callihan is dressed as a housekeeper and attacks Eddie, and him and Eddie Edwards fight. Callihan gets the better of him, and Alisha Edwards says the police have been called. Thank goodness, finally. Finally the police have been called. And there's a camera being held, or it's a secret camera or whatever, and we get the thumbs up and then thumbs down from Sami Callihan. But, I was thinking, when Bobby Lashley had his hands full when he was attacked and thrown into a trunk by OVE, Eddie Edwards was the first person to say, "Now, you know what? I got your back on this." Where's Bobby Lashley? Well, why isn't Bobby Lashley helping Eddie Edwards now? I mean, Eddie Edwards helped Bobby Lashley, so why isn't Bobby Lashley returning the favor and saying, "Eddie, what's wrong? Oh, I'll go with you." Or why could Eddie Edwards say, "Hey, Bobby, I need your help. My wife's in danger. Oh, let's go." Or where's Bobby Lashley? I know he's got this thing now with Brian Cage, but it's kind of like Eddie Edwards really wasn't involved in the feud to begin with. He's doing Bobby Lashley a favor, and then somehow got sucked into this feud. And now Bobby Lashley's like, "Hey, you know what? I'm wiping my hands clean of OVE. They don't want to mess with me anymore. I'll let them screw around with Eddie Edwards. It's his problem now." So where's Bobby Lashley? He's not helping Eddie Edwards. I find that interesting. I find that very interesting. That Lashley is not interested in helping Eddie Edwards. Anyway, and then we have the Kongo Kong Abyss video package, and we have match 4, Abyss versus Kongo Kong in the Monsters Ball match. And I gotta tell you something. I did not like this match at all. Nothing against Kongo Kong. The guy is incredibly talented. He is the monster of Impact Wrestling, regardless of this match. He's tremendous talent. I see a lot of people on Facebook saying, "Oh, he's out of shape and he needs to go work out and he needs to pump iron and get muscle definition and lose some weight." But people seem to forget that this is professional wrestling, and every single professional wrestler doesn't need to look like John Cena or Batista or Triple H. This is professional wrestling. Remember that, okay? So Kongo Kong has the perfect look for a professional wrestler, and he's incredibly talented, and he's a great big man. He moves so well in the ring for a big man. It's just this match. I was nothing special about it. Abyss is a shell of his former self. If this was 10 years ago, this could have been a terrific match. But Abyss is a shell of his former self. moving too slow. Looked like he was hurt and moving in slow motion. Kongo Kong won the match. He hit the splash onto top rope splash on Abyss while Abyss was lying on barbed wire board. Splashed him, got the 3 count. Match was over. Thank goodness. Kongo Kong is the new monster of Impact Wrestling until he meets Fallah Bahh. Just want to throw that in there. But Kongo Kong is the new monster. Like I said, he was the monster anyway, regardless of this match. But it looks like the torch has been passed again here. First we saw it, the end of the show, we saw it with Brian Cage and EC3. Here Abyss passing the monster torch to Kongo Kong. And Kongo Kong is terrific. Current Border City Wrestling heavyweight champion. I think he's been champion for like 2 years now. Terrific talent, terrific talent. And I hope Kongo Kong doesn't disappear now for like 2 or 3 months before we see him again. But Kongo Kong wins the match, and I'm thinking this Monsters Ball match why wasn't this match too violent for TV like the Barbed Wire Massacre match was? I thought this was on the violence scale was about the same as the Barbed Wire Massacre match, but this one wasn't too violent for TV. So I was wondering about that as well. But with this one, we didn't get the big match feel that was expected. The crowd was quiet throughout as well, so didn't like the match. But I love Kongo Kong. Just didn't like the match. And maybe it's time for Abyss to step down and maybe work backstage for a bit. But that's it. That was it. That was it this week. Oh yeah. And at the end of the show, and they should have been promoting the F out of this, but they weren't. I don't know why, but at the end of the show, they announced that next week we're getting Bobby Lashley against Brian Cage, and then that was it. So just one quick mention is the hype for a huge match next week, Brian Cage and Bobby Lashley. One quick mention is the hype for that. They should have been promoting this match throughout the entire freaking show. Next week, Bobby Lashley is taking on Brian Cage. That's going to be a tremendous encounter. And we got one quick mention of it, unless they mentioned it during the show and I just missed it. But as far as I'm concerned, we got one quick mention of it at the end of the show, and that was the only hype for Brian Cage versus Bobby Lashley next week. Little understandable. Little didn't understand that, but that's it. And that's it. And that was it this week for Impact Wrestling. So I think it's time to say goodbye now. So I'm going to see if I can find the results actually no, because it's a one night only. I was thinking about the one night only special. They're going to be in California today and tomorrow. I was going to see if I could find some results, but the second day is the one night only special, and I don't want to give any spoilers away, and I don't want to see any spoilers, so I'm not going to look up any of the results. But the one night only special that they're filming in California, I will be reviewing that on a future Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast, Impact Wrestling Edition. So I'm going to say that's it for me this week. Thank you very much. One more time, Impact Wrestling is not tanking, it's thriving. And until next week, I will most definitely... Oh, actually, no. Next week, I might not be back. We're going away. It's my wife and my daughter's birthday. So there is a chance that I might not be back next week for the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast, Impact Wrestling Edition. But there is a chance I will be. I might be able to squeeze it in. So I'm not going to say for sure I might be, but I might not be. But I'll tweet about it. I'm going to try to squeeze it in, but there's a chance I might not be back next week. But anyway, I'll be back next week. Don't worry. I'll squeeze it in somehow. But anyway, I just want to say thank you very much for joining me this week. And until next week, take care. Bye-bye. And I just want to say, it's been a pleasure being here. It's a pleasure being here, and I just want to point that out, and I enjoy doing this each and every week. So again, I'll be back. I'll be back for sure. Maybe not next week, but the week after that, and we'll do it all again. But anyway, of course, you know I'll be back. Well, I'm just rambling on right now because I'm rambling on because I don't want to go. I enjoy doing this too much. But anyway, I gotta go. So anyway, until next time, thank you very much again for joining me. Take care, bye-bye, and as always, please, you gotta stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye. Stay safe.